Today on Switch to Linux, we are going to talk about how Windows nudged everybody to go ahead and start using online accounts and talk about some of the other things peripheral to this general approach. So stay tuned. Welcome back to Switch to Linux. Today we are going to go back into our Windows for our Windows Wednesday, and we're going to talk about some of the ways they have nudged us to kind of reduce our security and increase our threat by forcing us and nudging us to use online accounts. And in so doing, it could cause you to lose all of your data if you are not careful. Ultimately, we're going to say, hey, look at using Linux that does not have a problem with you doing everything locally for those people that want to do that. If you like this type of content, please feel free to subscribe to the channel if you've not already done so. Leave us a like and a comment down below to help push us along in the algorithm. So today what we're going to do is I'm going to start out, this came from a comment on the channel I think this was on last Wednesday video. The PIN is secure because it is valid on that machine only, that one single machine. A bad actor will have to have access to it and access to your PIN. The PIN will not work anywhere else, whereas a password will work anywhere. You do have the option of choosing an alphanumeric PIN as well, so you could just use a password anyway. At its core, it is I think he says factory, I think it means two-factor, something you know, the PIN, something you have, the PC, where the PIN is valid. Okay, so this was my response to him. I said, my password only works on that machine too. I might use a different password somewhere else. You see, this is why your computer should not use cloud authentication for a local device. And that really is the hinge of it. Is what this commenter says true? Yes. The PIN itself, it can be simpler because it only works at one location. We're not talking about a 4-digit numeric PIN to access your account over the internet. We're talking about using a 4-digit PIN. And the reason this works is because of that TPM module. So for summary, going back, starting around last year around this time, Windows started they pushed out an update which started forcing the online accounts. There's still a few ways, I think, to get around this online account when you're setting up Windows, but pretty much at this point in time, you have to be more of a computer expert to be able to set up a Windows computer without having an online Microsoft account, which means all of the files on that local computer that sits on your desktop have to be authenticated in an online system. Now, is it possible that if you boot that computer on when you don't have an internet connection, can you still get on with the basic authentication models? I think you probably can, even if you have the online account. Maybe. I don't even know that, to be perfectly honest, because I haven't run Windows in a while. Maybe I should get that. Let me know in the comments down below. However, what we are getting at here is that by default, Windows is trying to force everything to sync into the last known cloud circumstance. Okay. And so while it is true that you have to have the PIN and the machine for the security authentication through the TPM module, the problem is this is all becoming a requirement because Windows has forced us into the cloud. So I did want to go ahead and have a look at what some of this was. And so let's go ahead and have a look at an article which summarizes this. This is from the Windows Club. So PIN versus password in Windows 11 and Windows 10, which offers better security. Now, this PIN situation is tied to Windows Hello. So Windows Hello is the PIN/biometric authentication module that utilizes the TPM in order to unlock your system. This is tying itself to your cloud Microsoft account where they put the decryption keys for your encrypted hard disk into Microsoft in that circumstance. So when they're going into this, if you're using Windows Hello to log in instead of a password, you're using the TPM module and either the simple PIN, which you can use a more complicated PIN as well, and you can use biometric authentication, a fingerprint, a face, a retinal scan, you know, giving all of that kind of stuff to the mark of the beast, but you know, whatever. Now the password, and this is where they kind of say, this is where we kind of get like, rethink that, right? right? A password is a secret code which is stored on a server and can be used to access your account from any location. So let's go ahead and talk about that. Let's use the word misinformation has become popular these days. So a password is a secret code stored on a server. No. A password is a code which gets you into whatever authentication method. Now, Windows is trying to force you to use an online account, which means, yes, the password is everywhere. Okay, so the password allows you to be used in that circumstance. Now, because of this, they say that if somebody gets that password through either keylogging or phishing or some other means, then with that password, somebody can get into your Microsoft account. This is all very true. And this is why they're trying to spread out this information to say the password is insecure. It's an old model. We should get rid of the password. That is kind of what the current viewpoint of the world should go. So the concept of the PIN and biometric identifier come to use. Windows Hello PIN and biometric identification are system specific. This gets back to that TPM module, which, by the way, you can set up decryption keys even on Linux to a TPM module if you wanted to. It's a little bit more complicated at this point in time, but you can do such things. Now, all of this has been made required for increased security because exclusively they're forcing everything to authenticate with a cloud. So if somebody phishes your cloud password, they can get into not only your cloud account, but your local account, which Microsoft is trying to blur the images between these two. So since Microsoft wants you to use this, the PIN and biometrics logs you in, and this is what allows it to maintain a degree of security. So in this instance, it's the local TPM module that increases the security, why the PIN is better in this instance. That is, once again, if your computer forces itself onto the cloud. But I have a couple of questions. Number one, you still have to have another way into your account. You see, everyone's trying to force, get away with passwords, just use your phone for everything. Whoops, I dropped my phone into the toilet. Oh, I just lost my access into everything. How do I get into my account now? Well, that's a complicated matter, especially with all of these people, all these amazing Microsoft people. If my Microsoft account is hacked, will they have access to my PC, my computer? This is kind of asking that question I'm addressing. This is last year about this time. Hey, because, of course, this is around the time everyone's forcing it. If the Microsoft account is hacked, can they gain access? Yesterday, my account got hacked. They changed the primary email to something else. I have no chance of logging in. Right now, my computer keeps telling me I must verify my account with Microsoft. I was just wondering if anybody who has compromised my Microsoft account could have access to my personal computer as well, because they changed the email and password I am currently logged out. He said, if I'm currently logged out. All right. So the independent advisor, and glad I was able to provide assistance, blah, blah, blah. The message telling you to verify this is a scam, which wants you to provide information. The guy's like, no, it's not a scam. It is being presented by Windows Security on the widget's page settings. It is not malware. It is a hacker has access, and now he can't get into a system. And this guy, download a copy of the safety scanner. The guy's still assuming it. So this is the level of people you're dealing with if you have to get some form of help. Of course, this guy had an even better one. I have accidentally locked myself out of my account by a hacker. He was gaming. He had to verify something. He thought it was safe, but in the distraction of the video game, he was phished. The account was taken over. And what's this guy says? If your email has been changed, you can try repeatedly logging into your account with the wrong password. This will cause it to be locked due to abnormal accounts. Here's some common scenarios if you can't sign in. This guy did not even read and comprehend the thing. All right. Is the AI generated? I think AI would actually do a better job than that. But that brings us back to the idea that when you are forcing the computer to use an online system and your online account is compromised, or, hey, what if Microsoft accuses you of wrongthink and just shuts your account down? We now have scenario evidence, I'm going to show you here in a few minutes, that will actually lock you out of your entire system. But that's my first thing. If I happen to lose my TPM module on my account, and the way the two-factor authentication, the cell phone. What if I lose that kind of stuff? What if I'm in some fiery car wreck and I happen to get out, but my computer and my phone are destroyed? And that's the only two ways I have to authenticate who I am to get in. How do I get into that account again? You see, you still have to keep that password floating around. So now there's an argument that can be made that the less you use it, the less it's possibly going to get compromised. I get that. But there still has to be some backdoor that can somehow be phished. Here's the next question I have. What if, Microsoft, I don't want to use your online services? That's the boat I'm in. See, I would be perfectly happy staying on Microsoft if you didn't force everything online and if you didn't constantly send my system requirements and computer usage up to your servers. I don't want to send that stuff out. I am happy and content having my little computer, and if I have some computer bug or some issue, leave me to deal with the issues I need to do to figure out how to solve that. I don't need constant diagnosis so that you can figure out what my problem might be that you won't even do anything about anyway, and then, of course, you reduce all your resources for me to actually reach you if there's a problem. I'm going to go to the forums anyway. But the reality is, I don't generally run into a lot of problems that I can't generally resolve. But this is how they do it. They sell you that this is better and force you onto the online account and then force you to use the authentication methods, including the PIN, the biometrics, and the TPM module on your system. But the fact of the matter is, if something happens to your account, you still need an alternative way to get in. I'm going to show you why this is important, why you need an alternative way to get in. You see, on Windows, if somebody does gain access to your account details through any various means, be it a phishing attack, maybe it's one of these, authentication issues. So here is an account takeover, an ATO is what they would call this. So an account takeover is when somebody's using either phishing, malware attacks, social engineering, data breaches, and they're compromising your data. Now, the current ones, there's been several videos out on YouTube about this. Of course, Linus Tech Tips was hacked about this. Some Ordinary Gamers had some more discussion about how these are working. I think it was him, maybe it was Mental Outlaw. One of those two had some excellent videos on these general approaches. And the reality is that if you're logged in and staying logged in and a piece of malware hits your computer and it grabs all those authentication tokens from your browsers, it can now get you into the system, even bypassing the 2FA. Remember they sold us the 2FA? This is going to perfectly secure all accounts. Everybody needs this. It didn't make a beans hill worth of difference. People can still get in. They're just doing it by doing this account takeover utilizing session cookies. And then once they have the account takeover, they're immediately changing all the emails, changing all the passwords, changing all of the reset methods, and totally locking you out. And now you are at the mercy of automated bots to figure out if you can get your account back. Really, the only way to do it is to have a big enough audience in order to get enough people complaining to that service in order for them to see a human being see enough of those complaints and look into it and fix it. But a smaller creator, you have no chance of restoring that. In fact, that happened to one of the directors at one of our writers' conferences. I think they were using a Microsoft account at the time for everything, and utilizing that Microsoft account at the time, the Microsoft account was locked for whatever reason. To my knowledge, she's never figured out. This is a retired old lady who simply runs a writers' conference in her spare time. She got completely locked out. She lost all of her contacts. She lost all of her contracts. She lost everything inside of that account overnight, instantly, with no way of getting it back. Because she's just a single small person without a huge social media following to have a whole bunch of people lambaste Microsoft to get the account back. Still doesn't know why she lost the account. It's not like she's out there doing spicy takes on Facebook or something either, you know. That's the reality. And we're seeing more of this. From this person here 6 months ago, this is, of course, after Microsoft starts forcing online accounts. So a hacker stole my Microsoft account and changed the email and password on it. They gave themselves admin status on my laptop and locked my computer. I have tried a factory reset, but even that didn't work. It is still locked. What can I do to get the hacker off my laptop? So this guy, because his computer, his laptop computer is tied to his online Microsoft account, a hacker does probably this attempt. They do an account takeover. They change his email. They change his password, and they lock him out. And the TPM module's like, you're not the right person. Really? Nope. So now we have some discussions. Thanks for posting. Where your post has not been removed. Whatever. That's just automod. Just to clarify, my hacked Microsoft account is still logged into the laptop. This guy says, well, you can say goodbye to the account. I can't quickly think of a solution. Maybe there's one, but I'm too tired. So this isn't necessarily a Microsoft person. This guy says, yeah, you'll just have to wipe everything. You can either reinstall Microsoft or reinstall Linux onto it. There's a better option for you. Of course, over on the official Microsoft, this is actually a couple years ago. And my account was hacked, and now I can't log into it because the account email is changed and my account doesn't exist. Trying to get in my account when suddenly my password doesn't work. So I tried to reset it, but it said the account doesn't recognize or exist. There was a data breach for me a while back. So this guy was caught up in a data breach. Somebody's collecting every bit of data and then whoops, not securing it. SW Colander, I guess. So they lose all of their information. He says, trying to put it in, there was, the email, let's see, trying to put in my password again. There's an email I didn't recognize. So it's a scammer's email. Tried following every help that I could, even following Microsoft help, but mostly now the account doesn't recognize or exist. Is there a way to get the account back? So this is an independent advisor for the forum, and he's kind of going through this, seeing we are seeing a lot of account hijackings recently where the hacker changes the password and even the email and security info so it becomes impossible to recover. These are the accounts they are tying to your computer. Everything recommends to try to cover. One more thing you can try here. Normal, let's send you a security code to a mobile or email you set up here. If you cannot receive the security code because it's not up to date or has been changed by the hacker, try the recovery account follow-up here. And then he gets down here and says you can amend the account recovery form if you remember any other information, which may shorten the waiting period. Unfortunately, they will not budge on the wait, as they have learned over decades exactly what's needed to avoid any chance of giving away your personal data to a hacker or stalker. So best case scenario, you're locked out of it for a period of time. If you are locked out of Windows, I can show you how to rescue your files and do a reset with a local account now. This is, again, assuming this is back in 2022 when it was still easier to get a local account set up. So here's everything I know about being hacked and how to present it. And then, so basically this guy's saying, yeah, we're seeing a lot of people take over Microsoft accounts. It can lock you out of your computer. If you have access to a local account, you can still get your files. But remember, Microsoft is trying to do away with this. If you do not have a local account on your system right now, you need to consider changing things around on your computer to make sure you have a local account. Do not tie a Microsoft account to your Windows computer because we are seeing an increase in these account takeover scams. They are getting better at it thanks to AI. People are losing their accounts at a faster rate. And when your entire computer login is tied to your online Microsoft account, it forces you out of your system and gives hackers access to everything. And by the way, if Microsoft has been automatically backing up all of your data to the cloud like they're trying to automatically do, now the hacker has access to your data and you don't, because Microsoft is forcing you onto an online account. So always make sure, number one, you have a good, solid backup strategy, because if you're losing your Microsoft account, it's probably gone. Two, do not put anything in that Microsoft account that you wouldn't want leaked to the public, because it might get leaked. Three, just expect if you're going to be staying on Windows, you might simply lose your account due to wrongthink, or lose your account due to some other reason, or lose your account because somebody hacked it, and you may not be able to get that account back. But there is a better option, and that is where we at Switch to Linux talk about switching to Linux. So I have several videos on installing Linux to USB drives or testing it on virtual machines. Maybe you can do a Ventoy disk and just play around with some live keys. There's a number of things that you can try when you are talking about switching to Linux. Now, Linux, for the most part, is all local accounts. Some distributions like Ubuntu are working on cloud-connected ID systems. They are totally optional, and very few of them are actually working on it. But you also have the ability of the increased security that can come with using a TPM module on Linux. Again, they're not default set up. I think Ubuntu once again working on that type of stuff as well. But you're not forced into using these things. You see, Microsoft is a lot more secure if they do away with this forcing you into an online account nonsense. They keep all the local accounts and let you choose the element that your computer is online. Linux still does that. Everything in Linux is local. Some remote hacker isn't going to steal some centralized account and then lock you out of a local computer. Whereas apparently the evidence is pretty clear they are doing that on Windows. So over here, coming to Linux, you can have a familiar operating system. And you can have one that's unfamiliar as well. You can have a variety of different options over here on Linux. You can have one that looks very familiar to the Windows setup. You can run a lot of the same applications. You have good alternatives for the exact applications you don't necessarily have. There are a lot of other options as our main point that we want to talk about here. So I definitely encourage you to explore switching to Linux. And what I would recommend you to do, rather than just getting caught up in all of the which distribution, I would just recommend you switch to Linux Mint. Give Linux Mint a try. This is by and far the most supported, the easiest to run, very simple system. Just using Linux Mint. I'm not saying you have to stay on it for the rest of your life, but if you're new to Linux, try this out. It is a very easy to use system. We have tons of tutorials on our channel about using it, and there are other channels out there as well that have good tips on using Linux Mint as well. So stay away from those online accounts. Do not be forced by Windows into an online account. Do things locally. And right now in this world, it looks like Linux is the best way to do that. So we're going to leave our video here. Thank you for watching. Subscribe to the channel if you've not already done so. Leave us a like and a comment down below, and we will see you in the next video.